Welcome to Outstanding in Our Field podcast. I'm Pastor Dave Berry with the Praise and Worship Family Outreach Center in Jasper, Tennessee. And we've been sharing a little bit of Abram in his early stages of life and ministry, serving God here and trying to create a theme of the truth marches on. And sometimes if you're not used to walking in truth, it takes a while to get in sync and get in step. You know, when people march in cadence and so forth, every step is taken the same way and everything. But when you come to Christ, you just come to an altar and everybody thinks, well, suddenly you're just going to line up with the Word and you're going to line up so well. But now, how many people know it takes time? And we learn that through our building our relationship. We learn about God. We learn what He likes, what He doesn't like, and then we make changes accordingly to our life. And sometimes, you can change things, and other people think, well, I don't see what's wrong with that. But it's what God tells you, and so we need to do that to build our relationship the best way. And couples are like this. One couple may do one thing, and another couple would do something else. But it doesn't mean one is wrong or one is better. It's just a matter of what works in the relationship that you're in. Well, of course, the relationship with God, He has standards, and He likes things certain ways. And so we've been talking about Abram here, leaving a place that had a famine. He was heading to Egypt, and on his way to Egypt, he talked to his wife Sarah and said, look, you are such a beautiful woman that if you don't tell them that you're my sister instead of my wife, they're going to kill me so that they can take you as their wife. And again, pointing out that she was at least 65 years old when this is taken. So it seems odd that not just Abram feels like she's such a beautiful woman, but all the men of the city also do, or the men of the country of Egypt think she's such a fair to look upon. So that's interesting, and need to keep it in perspective here, because Abram has told her to tell what we call a white lie or a half-truth, because she was his sister. They both had the same father, but they had different mothers. So in principle, yes, he was telling a half-truth, but how many people know that half-truths get you in just as much trouble as whole lies do? So, we got to keep this in perspective. So as he traveled down to Egypt and he gets there, and we pick this up in Genesis chapter 12, verse 14, it came to pass that when Abram was coming to Egypt, the Egyptians beheld the woman that she was very fair. The princes also of Pharaoh saw her and commended her before Pharaoh, and the woman was taken into Pharaoh's house. And he had treated Abraham well for her sake, and he had sheep and oxen and asses and men servants and maid servants and she asses and camels. So he profited a lot from this half-truth. He profited a lot from this little white lie, if you will. But it doesn't matter how much you profit from it, it's still, there are consequences. And this is what I want to look at. We get to verse 17, we see the consequences beginning. And it says that the Lord plagued Pharaoh and his house with great plagues because of Sarah, Abram's wife. Now, see that the consequences was that the person who told the half-truth or the white lie was being blessed, but the consequences was the ones that didn't know any better were being plagued by this little white lie and this half-truth. So sometimes we may seem like we get away with something and profit from it, but it affects other people, it affects other generations, it affects other family members, co-workers, any number of different things that it can affect. And this plague came upon them. And in verse 18, and it says, and Pharaoh called Abram and said, what is this that thou hast done unto me? Why didn't you tell me that she was your wife? He had no idea. So you'd think, well, that's not his fault. Doesn't seem right that God plagued him. But you have to understand that the consequences of not telling the truth, the consequences of not doing the right thing or doing what God said, affect different people, different generations. So we have to be careful that our word is true and that we line up with His word and we keep going in that direction. It may seem like it cost us something. It may seem like a a lack or a penalized because we told the truth. But in the end result, God will bless anyway, and God will bless you far more than you could ever get through half-truths and white lies. So he said to Pharaoh in verse 20, Pharaoh commanded his men concerning him, and they sent him away and his wife and all that he had. Now he still profited. He still was better off in the end result here, but Pharaoh wasn't. The Egyptians weren't, because he had lied to them. And so we have to be careful that we find a way to be open, be honest with other people, because you can burn bridges with people so easily if you don't hold to this standard and hold to this. Integrity is something that you can't buy it, but it can be easily taken away, and you can lose it. But holding fast to the truth, staying in line and in sync and in step with truth will carry you to places that you never thought it would be possible for you to get, and you'll end up profiting far more in the end result than you ever could by half-truths and white lies. So I want you to keep your focus on that and know that what seems like profit will cost Abram something later. And so the end result was he's not going to be better off than he was. You say, well, he's alive. Well, that may be true, but I think if he was truthful and honest, things would have worked out because God would have protected him, because he was the man for that hour that God had picked, that God had made promises to, and chose to bring his covenant through. And so, when you're promised a son, for example, if you're killed, then you can't have a son. So even though he doesn't have that promise yet, in the eyes of God, in the heart of God, he has got his promise already. And so just because we don't know our promises, God has promised something in the Spirit for us, each and every one of us, and he's not going to let that promise go. And so you can't die until you're finished with his promise for your life, for your destiny, for your purpose. All we have to do is march in the direction that God wants us to go in, because he truly looks out for our best interest and our heart. So I try to encourage you this week with these words is let's stay faithful to the truth and watch God bring an increase. And let's not sell out, if you will, to half-truths and white lies. And it will bring honor to God, and we will stay faithful in his presence. God bless you until next week.